Hi, I'm Shelley Hughes, Republican candidate for governor. I'm going to talk to you today about the bad halibut proposal currently before the International Pacific Halibut Commission to cut the limit from 2 fish to 1 fish for unguided anglers in Alaska, and to encourage you to submit comments to oppose it. It's pertinent that conservation measures are effective, equitable across user groups, and credible to the public. Let me start off by saying I have long-standing experience working on food security issues and actually have lived experience in fishery-dependent communities in Alaska. IPHC Proposal C1, which would reduce the unguided recreational halibut bag limit from 2 fish to 1 fish, does not meet that criteria. Now, I understand that this won't impact subsistence users in rural Alaska of the state, but we have many families in non-rural areas who rely on harvesting wild fish with hook and line to offset very high food costs. For these families, halibut harvest is not incidental recreation, it is a necessity. This is especially true in South Central Alaska, where a reduction in bag limits would fall right on Alaskan families. Here's the question at hand that we need to ask. If unguided anglers aren't allowed to harvest these fish, will those halibut remain in the water, or will they simply be harvested elsewhere? I want to take a second to point out that sport fishermen are big supporters of conservation, but conservation depends on reducing total mortality, not shifting harvests from one sector to another. This question of shifting the harvest elsewhere is unavoidable given the halibut mortality and waste happening in the trawl fisheries. Does it make sense to reduce the harvest by individual anglers while millions of pounds of juvenile halibut continue to be wasted as bycatch elsewhere? This rate of bycatch waste is 200 to 300% higher than unguided harvest. There is clearly imbalance here. It's unfair and makes no sense. We need to think about a few numbers to really grasp what is happening and why Proposal C1 is not the answer. Over the last 12 years, trawlers fishing offshore of Alaska reported themselves a grand total of 85.17 million pounds of halibut bycatch mortality. Bear in mind, as we look at this issue, that halibut nurseries in the Bering Sea are closed to fishermen who are intentionally targeting halibut, but are not closed to trawlers who aren't targeting halibut, but who catch and waste the enormous amount I just mentioned as bycatch. This is unbelievable. The North Pacific Fishery Management Council needs to address this. But back to the numbers and the Halibut Commission. The economic stakes are very real. Sport fishing alone generated approximately $1.7 billion in economic activity in Alaska in 2022. Unguided anglers are a crucial part of this system, and the Commission should not neglect this fact. The tourism industry also has taken a substantial hit. A NOAA report in 2019 showed an $85 million decline when halibut quotas were restricted for guided anglers. That's a big deal, Alaska. So let's throw in a few more numbers to this equation, which, by the way, is not exactly adding up well for Alaskans. The Amendment 80 fleet only puts 43 cents back into our state through landing fees for every pound of halibut they waste, when that same halibut would sell for $8 per pound or more and boost our GDP. And finally, here's a bit of a side note, but an important one. I've got a couple of 80s for you. A report from the Amendment 80 fleet itself showed that 80% of their product was going to where? China. Now, here's my main point now that you have good background information. Policies to promote sustainable halibut management and long-term stock health must be tied to reducing total waste and mortality. So here's my bottom line. Restricting one of the most selective and food-efficient users, sport anglers, of the halibut resource is not the answer. So in closing, I urge you to submit your comments to the IPHC by January 17th. State your opposition to the C1 proposal, unfairly reducing the unguided recreational halibut bag limit from 2 fish to 1 fish is wholly inappropriate in light of the tremendous halibut waste by the trawl industry. Thank you, Alaskans.
Paid for by Alaskans for Hughes, P.O. Box 1496, Palmer, Alaska 99645.